A reception hall in Oslo, Norway holds the world's attention as U.S. President Barack Obama is awarded the Nobel Peace Prize. His acceptance speech, full of the rhetorical flourishes for which this president is now known, directly confronted the tensions felt by a wartime leader early in his first term, accepting accolades for peacemaking. But it provided no clues as to how he'll resolve the most difficult challenges facing his administration.
The great question about President Obama, friend or enemy, is what can he do beyond superb rhetoric? He presented superb rhetoric. The more superb rhetoric he presents, the more the question will be, what can he do? His presidency is now about action.
Welcome to Agenda with George Friedman. I'm Marla Dial.
I do not bring with me today a definitive solution to the problems of war. What I do know is that meeting these challenges will require the same vision, hard work, and persistence of those men and women who acted so boldly decades ago.
As he explored the themes of a just war and just peace, Obama touched at least briefly on many of the issues that already command Washington's attention.
In terms of foreign policy, he really emphasized the war against al-Qaeda and essentially called it a just war. And in addition to that, he focused on the question of Iran. He talked about nuclear nonproliferation, the need for sanctions as an alternative to war, and implicit in that was that if the international community is serious about peace, they're going to do something about Iran that involves sanctions and not force the United States into an act of war. There was an implicit threat there, very gently put. There really was simply a restatement of his position on al-Qaeda, a restatement of his position on Iran, a restatement of his position on human rights, and so on.
In describing a just peace, Obama also touched on themes that referred to his own domestic policy priorities, and in some ways appeared to be speaking to his American audience, among whom his popularity ratings matter the most. But though he cut his time in Oslo short to get back to work in Washington, he gave no hints as to his future policy path.
He has to deal with Iran. He has to deal with Afghanistan. He still has to deal with Iraq. He has to deal with any of the number of issues he's brought up. The speech at various points cataloged all the issues that he's going to have to deal with. It didn't specify how he was going to do that. In 4 years, he's not going to be judged on his ability to catalog the problems, but his performance in dealing with them.
Obama's personal mark on history, as one in the annals of Nobel Peace Laureates, has now been at least partly defined, but his legacy as a president has not yet been written, and it will be forged by events well beyond Oslo.
He will be remembered for what happens in Afghanistan and for those things which are going to happen in his administration that have not happened yet, that will surprise him, and how he responds to them. President George W. Bush will always be remembered for something he never expected to face when he ran for president, which is 9/11 and everything that flowed from that. His father will always be remembered for something he never expected to face, the invasion of Kuwait by Iraq. The most important things in a presidency are those things that are unanticipated. And nothing yet unanticipated has happened to him, but that's where he's going to make his history.
And now, a look at the week ahead. There's lots of activity in Central Asia, where Chinese President Hu Jintao and Iranian Commerce Secretary Mehdi Ghazanfari were both expected on Sunday for talks on energy and trade. Hu is also due in Turkmenistan to help cut the ribbon on an energy pipeline. In the Middle East, Hamas was planning rallies on Monday and warned of possible surprises. In Dubai, a big bond payment comes due for a state-controlled developer, and Cuba is hosting a summit for Bolivarian leaders like Venezuela's Hugo Chavez and Bolivia's Evo Morales. In Europe, Romanians will be marking the 20th anniversary of events that brought down dictator Nicolae Ceausescu, and NATO's chief is due for talks in Russia. Later in the week, the European Central Bank meets in Germany, and world leaders will be in Copenhagen to close out the UN Climate Change Summit. Finally, in Africa, Ethiopia's prime minister might call for $50 billion in compensation for African countries harmed by carbon emissions from developed states.